In episode 6 of 3-Player Co-op, we're going to rock down to Peter Molyneux. And we're also going to talk about the Xbox 720. This episode we're going to use a new format where we play a 3-player co-op game while conversing. So if you guys have any suggestions for local 3-player games that we could play, pop them in the comment section below. I'm Sean.
I'm Mark.
And I'm Mike.
Peter Molyneux has announced this week that he's going to move on to pastures new. He was the man behind Bullfrog of Dungeon Keeper and Populous fame, as well as Lionhead Studios of Black and White and Fable fame. He's essentially credited with creating the God genre, and he's such a big deal that he inspired a parody Twitter account, Peter Molyneux. But after he finishes Fable The Journey for Kinect, he's leaving to help set up the studio 22 Cans. So what do we think?
Okay, initial reactions to this were that it's great news because Peter Molyneux is far too talented a developer to be stuck making Fable and iterations of such. It's beneath him, I think, at this point. He's probably gotten as much out of it as he's going to get. On the other hand, this does have me slightly worried for Microsoft's European prospects. They bought Rare, and many people would say ran it into the ground. And essentially, it kind of looks like they've done the same thing with Lionhead now as well. So it does have you questioning what a partnership with Microsoft really means to a development studio.
So you think that Microsoft essentially squeezed the creativity out of some places?
I would have to agree with that statement. Yeah, I do think so. Rare were a studio that made amazing hits, for the Nintendo 64. I thought Viva Pinata was great, but it didn't really gain traction anywhere. And they're essentially now the Kinect developers. They make Kinect titles.
And the Avatar guys, let's not forget that. Those avatars were designed by Rare.
I'm really excited about this. I'm really excited at the potential and possibilities because Peter Molyneux is responsible for some of my favourite games growing up. I still have fond memories of pillaging dungeons and running theme hospitals, and it was just a really fun game and one that you could just sit down and play. You'd say you'd only play for a little bit, but then 7 hours later, you finally realise what time it is. So I'm really excited to see what he can do with unlimited potential and creativity once again.
We have no doubt that he'll have that quirky British sense of humour that he brings to pretty much everything.
That's exactly it. I mean, one of the creatures in Dungeon Keeper was the Horned Reaper, and it was given the nickname Horny. And as a child or as a teenager, you could relate to that. You knew exactly what they were talking about.
You pervert. Okay, so the last time a bunch of guys from Lionhead decided to leave and set up their own studio, the outcome from that was Media Molecule. They made Little Big Planet, Little Big Planet 2, which I think are probably among the best reasons to own a PlayStation 3. They're absolutely superlative games.
And the fact that Fable 3 was released in lukewarm reviews supports the point that creativity has been squeezed out. So, all well for Peter Molyneux.
Okay, so this new studio, 22 Cans, we're saying that there's a lot of potential there, that they could develop X, Y, and Z. I guarantee you that there's no way he has the budget at this studio that he had with Lionhead. So, the main criticism against Peter Molyneux is that he made promises and then didn't deliver on them. So, what's he going to promise this time and then not deliver? Because he's got so much less of a budget to help him deliver whatever he's promising.
I suppose that's balancing the whole budget thing with the creativity.
See, the thing is, with Microsoft, he had to make sales. So his job was similar to Steve Jobs. You get up on stage, you do a performance. He may not have believed the script, we don't know. Unless he's going to comment in below, we'll never know, truly. Okay, there was a lot of possibilities with the likes of Black and White. The movies was a great game. You could do a lot with that if you had creativity behind you and you were willing to be a bit patient. Some things have fallen a bit short, but you have to admire what he's tried to do and tried to strive towards.
Maybe we could tweet Peter Molyneux and ask him.
Thing is, I've been following him on Twitter as well, and he seems really passionate about this venture. Like, he's been talking about how he's excited to code again, and that is a great thing, because you know that this is going to be something he does as a labour of love, and it's going to be the project he wants to do. So you're going to have a lot of his personality and his direction, and I'm really, really excited.
Yeah, the passion is telling. I think passion beats out a budget every time, really.
I think he was passionate about everything. That was the whole point. He was like, the Fable games are the greatest thing that have ever been developed by mankind. This is so amazing. It's going to promise X, Y, and Z. And then it didn't. It's the passion that gets him in trouble. Also, is he going to code? This guy who's probably on like 6 figures of a salary is going to go back and actually code?
He's been talking about coding, so he's been talking about making mistakes in coding anyway, so we'll see what he does from there. But again, that comes back to, I think it's a stage performance when he was talking about Fable. Like, okay, you believe in your product, obviously, but I don't know if he loved the product enough, especially when you come up to Fable 3.
Okay, so how can you tell that he's being genuine on Twitter when he says he's passionate about this, but he wasn't being genuine when he was talking about Fable?
And the money aspect, I think, is a big deal. He doesn't have the Microsoft budget behind him this time, so the passion seems more genuine somehow.
Okay, he could be obviously just saying these things to get the budget or to get the sales, but I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt.
So if you guys want to rock down to Peter Molyneux, comment in the section below. This week we've been hearing rumours that the Xbox 720 won't have a disk drive. That's right, we're going to go full digital. What do we think?
Whenever I initially heard this, I was really surprised and thought, absolutely no way, there's no chance that they're going to release a console that is entirely dependent on digital downloads. But I read the rumour a bit more, and the actual rumour is that it's going to use a solid state drive for its storage and also SD cards. Now, if they sold games in shops on SD cards, that would be something quite different. My issue with them going entirely digital download is that you're alienating anybody who doesn't have a broadband connection. And we've seen figures that upwards of 40% of Xboxes sold are not actually connected to Xbox Live. So why would Microsoft do that? It makes no sense.
That's essentially the same halfway house that the PlayStation Vita is using. They're really pushing the idea of downloading the stuff, but you can still walk into a shop and get it with the box.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to see it go full digital, because you're depending on internet access, you're depending on storage space, which I'm pretty horrible at keeping low or keeping high, I should say. But if it was on SD cards, I'd be okay with that as long as it comes with a box of some sort, because trying to keep track of SD cards all over the house could be a pain in the arse.
And of course there's the fact that we would like to have options. It's nice to be able to check out prices in various shops around and then check out what they're selling it for on the official stores.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't want to have one person controlling the price point, because we'll all end up getting screwed basically as a result.
We've all seen it, like the new games that come out tend to be a little bit over the odds on PlayStation Network, for example.
I had thought that as well, but I actually read an interesting counter-argument to that. So the problem is that games are artificially underpriced for our market. So we're used to paying 45 or 50 euro for a game. If you were to buy a game in continental Europe, so France, Spain, Germany, you're going to be paying that 65, 70 euro, which is why whenever they price a game for the European market, that's what they price it at. We're just really lucky that whenever we buy in bricks and mortar, it's a lot cheaper.
God, I remember seeing the orange box for 70 when it came out. That was in the crazy times, though.
The other side that this whole lack of discs will bring about is pushing the Xbox towards being a media center again, and it'll mean that Hulu and Netflix and inbuilt things like that will become more important than DVDs. And to be honest, I use my Xbox a ton as a DVD player, so I wouldn't like to be forced into another thing I have to pay a subscription for and solely dependent on that media again.
I am really tired of the media centered thing. I just want a games console to be a games console. I don't want Facebook and Twitter and all kinds of everything on it. Games, thanks, that's enough.
I could not disagree more. I use my Xbox to game a huge amount. I game all the time, but I use it for Netflix. I use it to play media files on a portable hard drive. I mean, I don't really go in for the Facebook and Twitter thing on my Xbox, but the fact that it has evolved into something more than just a games console is something that I absolutely love.
So guys, what do we want to see from the Xbox 720?
I would like to see optical media still. I think that the console would do really well if it had a Blu-ray drive. I think it just makes sense. It's the next logical step up from DVD. Also, it offers fantastic storage, and considering how we've seen a lot of games use like all of the storage on the PlayStation 3, I think that's a good idea. What else would I like to see? Solid state drive would be fantastic. It's going to be expensive. I don't think there's any question about that. But in terms of what solid state drives would do for the loading speed and the performance of the consoles, I think it would be exceptional.
I'd like to see the 720 have some sort of optical media drive, because I don't want to go full digital just like that. I still want to have the option.
The other thing I'd like to see is some sort of backwards compatibility. Like, I know that pushed up the price point of PlayStation 3, but it was a good idea, and I have a lot of Xbox games I'd like to play at some point, and also the arcade games that I've picked up. You know, it's really nice to be able to pick them up once in a while rather than paying once again for a HD re-release or HD re-release.
Yeah, Sony dropped the ball not having any sort of UMD compatibility for anywhere outside Japan with the PS Vita.
In terms of what else I'd like to see, I think the expanded functionality is going to be a big part of it. If they don't release that system with, I mean, at least the majority of apps that the Xbox currently has, like if it ships without Netflix, if it ships without Hulu, etc., like already it's behind the curve in certain respects.
What apps are there left to put on it though?
Internet Explorer.
Actually, yeah, I'd love to see an internet browser. That's not Internet Explorer, of course. The only reason to have Internet Explorer is to download another browser.
Microsoft are going to release the Durango with Firefox.
Or Google Chrome. We're still kind of a bit away from the next generation, or else it feels like that.
I don't know how far away we are. I mean, like, I think we're guaranteed an announcement at E3 this year about Durango. And the only question is, are they going to release it for holiday 2012, or is it going to be a 2013 release? The issue is, you know, we've got a lot of big releases coming out. So Grand Theft Auto 5 is going to be coming out within the next, say, year and a half. And it's going to be coming out at the end of a console generation in a way, or at least, you know, at the end of the life cycle. So if, say, for example, if this next Xbox doesn't have optical media or doesn't support backwards compatibility, are you releasing Grand Theft Auto 5 and then within a couple of months releasing a new console that can't play it?
I reckon that could be the swan song for this generation. There's usually a swan song. God of War 2 was the PlayStation 2 swan song. Thanks very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed our new format. Catch you next week.